Welcome to Biggest Geek Ass. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
And I'm Joe.
This is episode 151 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. What's new, dude?
Oh, not a whole lot. Same old, same old. Going to work, coming home.
Right on. I did a little garage cleaning. I got a lot more to do. But, anywho, that's about all I did today. Nothing terribly productive, so it looks like.
Legion.
Yeah.
Legion says, LOL, I was typing a message and the theme song scared the crap out of me. It does have it can be a loud shock at the very beginning if you're not taking care. It
Metal.
can scare you. It can surprise you.
Mercer Core's in the house. Got
You
the
can't
Colts
stop
hat
the
on.
metal.
Got the Colts hat on, dude. GM Johnny, welcome, sir. And Darth is in the house. Arn Man. We got a big crew. Flady One, Martinson. L made a couple of early comments. He's back to his old strategy. He'd come in and do a little drop off with a comment. So
Drive by comments.
drive-by comments. I'm sure he'll show up at some point. So it's good to have him back in the saddle, as it were. So Flady loves the intro song. He's right. It is awesome. So we actually spent a lot of time going back and forth on stuff, and Joe just sent me that because I told him I wanted more of a metal theme, and I was like, dude, that's the one. So
It's metal. Well, people will argue about rock, metal, grunge, all those different things. And if you happen to get it wrong, like we just called that a little metal, and someone will say that's just hard rock. And I'm,
okay, musicians, I'm not arguing with you. I am not one.
Neither one of us are musicians.
It's metal to me. I like it. It's rock. It's whatever. It's all good.
I've learned to type. I'm not type. My typing sucks. I've learned to play a little bit on the piano, and a little bit of guitar, but nothing. Like here's a chord. Oh, I can play that chord.
I think when I dabbled with the guitar when I was 14 or so, my cousin, who's really good, he's kind of natural. His name's Timmy. He taught me how to do a couple of little basic. I wouldn't call them songs, but I could do the Jaws theme.
Oh.
But the part where it goes dun up, dun up. It was nothing.
Oh, okay.
It was nothing good, but yeah, I suck at it. Halcyon and H, what's up? So
yes, lady. People argue over everything.
I can be guilty of that. Arguments are fun. I like to argue. Argue has a bad name though. People say argue is like yelling. Argue means debate.
Right.
So, and I think that's a good thing.
But people get heated about things
yes.
that they really shouldn't.
And Halcyon says this to Flady, I don't agree. Right on, dude.
Well, tonight's topic is going to be, I won't say controversial, but there will likely be a lot of disagreement.
Sure, it'll be fun. It's gonna be fun.
But so what? We're all going to have opinions about the stuff, and it will be good.
And it's kind of an old topic. We'll get to that later. But anyway, Martinson said something I wanted to give a little shout out to. He said he loved the new Nightlight episode. That is my character in the Rifts game that Mercer Corps runs for us. We haven't run too much recently, but he's got back in the saddle. We ran a very short game. In fact, we talked more about football last night than I think we played. But we played a game, and Nightlight had a really good experience. I would encourage you all to check out Mercer Corps, his website, and take a look and see what came out. It was, I don't know. I'm glad Martinson liked it, but to me, it was just an introspective and a very cool. It's almost like you could imagine
side quest,
like a prelude in Nightlight's. Almost like it's I would call it an issue, but bi-weekly from here on out. Okay, dude. I'm down. Let's do it. But anyway, I would say it's probably a 10-issue or a 10-page miniseries. I don't know, not miniseries, like a mini comic or in the back of yeah. And it was really, I enjoyed it. I was ready for some action and got surprised. He threw me a curveball, and I liked it. It was very cool. So I won't spoil it for those that are interested unless you want me to.
Flady says, been trying to teach myself bass off and on for years and suck at it. My wife plays the bass at our church. She just started. She'd been playing bass for a long time.
Good.
And
Yeah, at the church. Cool.
playing for a while because the band she was in broke up. But and she was sad that she wasn't playing. And then some folks at church said, "Hey, why don't you play bass?" Because it's a Lutheran church, so most of the time it's organ music, traditional stuff. But one service a month, they do a more contemporary, worship part.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest of it's traditional, but they have a band and more contemporary songs, most of which I don't care for. But
I'm not a huge fan of worship music, but I have learned to appreciate some of it. It has to be lyrically, scripturally sound. I'm not
most
a
of
big.
it's you. What are you talking about?
I mean, it's got to be scripturally sound. It has to be.
No.
Oh,
A lot of contemporary music that I've heard, contemporary Christian music, is just lots of flowery language, but nothing.
yeah.
Not really a whole lot of substance.
God's my buddy, and sorry guys, if you
Sometimes they don't even use the word God. They don't use the word Jesus. They don't talk about the cross or anything like that.
There should be themes that, I mean, if you read the Bible, to sing is, I mean, it's an important part of service of worship, yes, and it should praise. But I thought guys probably don't want to hear.
We're not into that. It's an aside.
Yeah,
it's
so
a
but yeah,
peeve of mine.
I think
this would be Wisconsin, I believe.
Oh, okay. The Darth says argue is to debate. He thinks it's to debate passionately on the last one. Yeah, you can do that if you want. I mean, people think of it that way. It's really just, I just checked the definition, and of course it's a Google search, and it says it's actually just a way to attempt to prove by reasoning. But I understand it. It usually gets passionate. A passionate discussion becomes an argument.
Striper, are you kidding me? Can you even call that Christian music?
You can.
That's my grumpy old man.
It wouldn't be correct, but you could call it that.
Wisconsin and Missouri are good as long as it's not the Elka. Elka has the word Lutheran in their name.
That's it.
But that's the only place the Lutheran practices are there.
Yeah. So, whatever, though.
Anyway, this is not a religious show, so sorry about that.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should have a religious podcast. Biggest religious.
That would be funny.
Biggest faith. An offshoot of biggest geekus. Come listen to us argue about religious crap.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
So, yeah, that'd be really popular.
Anyway, let's start talking about gaming before everybody jumps off of our live stream.
Cool. But before we jump into the actual topic, a couple things I wanted to bring up. The second thing. So, big Baldur's Gate 3. We got the bear sex thing out of the way, and that is by far the worst. But I was watching, I got to remember this lady's name. I do watch her periodically, and I don't agree with her a lot of times, but she's not horrible. She's not diversity in dragons, but she has kind of a diversity thing in her title, and she doesn't really talk about it. She's kind of funny, actually. She doesn't make a big deal about diversity, but she was talking about Baldur's Gate 3, that it's super popular. What's up, Gary D20?
Hey, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second.
Sure.
If we're talking about a female, the proper way to do that is say some woman.
Some chick on the internet.
No.
Some woman.
You put it just a tiny bit of derisiveness in there. Some woman on the internet.
Some woman was saying. Is that right? Baldur's Gate 3
Perfect.
Has a way to you get to pick your genitalia shape. It's a choice in character creation. And when your character shows up, you show up utterly nude.
I wonder how much that game company paid people because it's not an easy thing to put game elements in that are clickable, selectable, and multiple, little icons and the text boxes. It's not nothing. It probably costs a decent amount of money for something that's worthless.
But she went into the details of it. And Baldur's Gate 3 sounds like it's a cool game. But here's the long and the short of it. I want nothing to do with that game.
No.
Honestly, if there was no bear sex thing, and it looks great. There's no, as far as gameplay, it looks fun. You actually roll dice. It's a DnD experience for one person. and it feels kind of cool. So, and I was watching at first. I was like, and then I was watching some of the stuff she was showing. I was like, okay, but that alone would have said no. And I'm almost to the point to where I'm like, I just don't get. And most gamers just laughing about it. I don't understand that, dude.
Right.
Why is that even a thing?
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so if someone put a hack or because I don't know how possible it is these days, but back in the day you could find little hack packs you could install in game installs, especially on a PC, that would change things around a little bit. That,
Mm-hmm.
someone doing that just for funsies, I would get. But paying someone for that kind of content is ridiculous.
Well, look, here's Darth Thick says he has not played it, but before you go into character generation, it asks you if you want new generation. She chose that. Okay, that's still dumb. I mean, look,
That
you
too.
guys, people are video gamers. You do whatever you want. It's fine if it's a thing. But I just find it's like, I am not here to do that.
No,
But that goes in with a lot of the, blue hair people and how they play D&D and what they like about it. And not all blue hair people. Some people probably on our stream, some people that like us probably like, oh, I think it's funny and I think it's cool that we can do stuff like I think it's hilarious. I get it. I mean, I'm a prude. Call me a prude, whatever. I just don't
mods.
understand it. Yeah, I just
The
don't
mod.
don't
But this
don't
isn't
get
a
it.
mod. This is original material.
Yeah, and why? Why? So
You
okay.
expect some demented fella out there
Mhm,
doing some weirdo crap so he can get, his jollies.
mhm.
But the base game, there's, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, so it just kind of
It's the same crowd who is fine. That's fine with naked men dancing around children. So
yeah. So there you go. But anyway, it seemed like there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but maybe I already did with Mercer Core and the Nightlight thing. So I hope he does decide to go bi-weekly. That'd be great. We play D&D. But tonight we're going to talk about an idea which is kind of old. The long and the short of it is save or suck. Most people, it is right. David Quill.
yeah. So this is the thing about Randy. When we go through topics, there's no breather. There's no intermission. There's no nothing. It's just, hey, we don't like this about this, and now we're going to talk about race, and now we're going to talk about this, blah, 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 blah. Boom, boom,
I really
boom,
need
boom,
to let our dudes give them time to respond to my silliness.
Right.
Joe's not wrong. I guess I got to be consciously slow down.
Yeah, you're not at work.
Yeah. Well, even at work, I mean, my poor students. Can you imagine?
That's what I'm saying. At work,
As a
at
teacher,
work, yeah. Hey,
jeez,
you covered 12 topics in 10 minutes.
you having trouble with this? It's barely calculus. What's wrong with you?
So
Oh.
I mean, we did warn people
Mhm.
that this wasn't the main topic, so that's
Right.
fine. But
Hey,
a little.
at least we left faith, right? We left the faith religious
Yes,
part. Now we're into
yes.
something
We're
connected
into
to gaming.
the gaming. We've been
But,
adjacent to gaming, and now we're going right into gaming.
Before I go right into it, I got another one now. Did you game this week?
No,
Guess who did? Me. Not just with Mercer Core, but I played Starfinder in my Earth X campaign, which is the one that's kind of like, what's the thing? What's the game where the dude hopped from body to body throughout time? He was Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap.
And the adventure of the guy, our buddy Jeff, ran us through a Starfinder scenario through most of it. And it was quite fun. I actually, for shame, yeah, I own a copy. I bought a copy of the book. Oh gosh, maybe a year after it came out through eBay. I got it real cheap. Like I said, I'm a fan of Pathfinder 1. Our buddy Jeff loves the Starfinder system. It's not something I would ever spend any money on. Where Paizo, I got it used from someone else on eBay, and I thought I would give it a try. It does seem to be a sleeker version of Pathfinder 1. It was fun, but I think it would actually be a more palatable third edition in terms of complication. But it's going to connect to our topic our second topic tonight, the race issue. A race issue.
Isn't there some controversy over I was just skimming through something and saw something mentioned about Pathfinder 2. Is they're making a Pathfinder 2 because that's necessary in this world. But anyway,
Yeah.
save or suck. It used to be save or die, and then everybody got all weak kneed, and now it's just save or suck.
Right. So my point was, it was a discussion that came about back during the. I felt like I didn't see it much during the TSR era of D&D. I'm sure it was there because, to be honest, I wasn't into the internet until well into third edition. In fact, third edition is what drew me to the internet. And what I mean by that is it drew me into the gaming portion of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get on in the online debates, because the first debate I remember people talking about is an old one, even when I got in, was the quadratic wizard versus the linear fighter. Linear fighter. And but one of the things that happened during the third edition to 3.5 transition was the discussion of save or suck. Oh, how bad it is. It sucks when you get held and you get a whole person. You can't do anything for a whole combat. And as you can tell by my derisive tone, I think that's babyfied.
Yeah.
But it was a thing. And so it got me thinking about what are save or suck situations that occur in D&D and other games. And for D&D, I went down a list. And of course, the first one is spells.
Mm-hmm. Well, there used to be lots of them.
Yes.
And throughout the editions, they kind of whittled them down and kind of nerfed some. And I think they made new ones that they didn't really know that they had made new ones, and that they went back and nerfed those too, or took them out of the game altogether.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And so I did a bit of it, I would call it a quasi deep dive. And I chose as my sample spell the disintegrate spell. So we're going to kind of go through this we do with monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And in OD&D, all the way through 2E, it was actually all the way through 3E, disintegrate was save or die.
Right.
If it actually did what it sounds like the spell would do. Right. You would think you would cast it. Now, in third edition, you might even argue it was even better, because if you've made your save, you still took 5d6 damage from disintegrate. So it was a pretty classic example of save or suck, or you're screwed.
Right. It was effective. I think it felt more effective in older versions because it's a con save in third edition.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you want to disintegrate most often, at least knee jerk, generally have good con saves. And a lot of the times it just, it sucks for the wizard because everything's always saving all the time.
Monsters tend to have very good fortitude. So disintegrate is better used on something like a rogue or a highly dexterous creature or a wizard. Yeah. Darthic says, it sucks, but it's awesome when your enemies fail their save. It goes both ways. Yeah. But the suck part, see, the concept is people were starting to complain in the third edition era that spells like that ruined the fun. Not so much they weren't so sad for the monsters.
No.
They were sad for themselves.
Well, there was the whole concept of making encounters into non-encounters.
Yes, that was the thing too.
That was another thing.
Which you could bring up the clerical turning as a thing too. That's a very fair interpretation. I think the weakness, now just my opinion is, save or suck just makes the game, you're on the edge of your seat, dude. You see that back in the day, it was a thin green beam. If I pulled a disintegrate out and I always described it as a thin green beam. Remember that, Joe? And you guys knew it. And if you got hit, you're like, oh crap, I have got to make this save.
Well, this is the other thing. What people don't understand is tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing folks do wrong is they don't target spellcasters immediately.
Right.
So you've got a bunch of orcs with a shaman, and they just want to deal with the orcs that are in their face instead of trying to take out the shaman first. who might have a sleep spell or a hold spell, probably has a hold spell or a silence spell. And they just want to deal with, the mob and not really care about the shaman. And then the shaman gets off the save or suck spell. And everybody's like, oh, he slowed me. Wah.
Look, Flighty one. I think this is close. I don't know. Avada Kedavra. I think that's the Harry Potter reference.
That's more of a death spell. It's not disintegrate, but yeah.
Right. But disintegrate just being that, look, there are situations where, yeah, everything can go, for lack of a better term, tits up for your character. I mean, like in a really quick way. But like then, my opinion, the weakness started creeping in 3.5. Now, this is not terribly weak. In 3.5, which is, they changed the disintegrate spell to be, instead of save or die, if you failed your save, you took 2d6 damage per level of the caster. Now, if you think about that, that's not bad. That's some pretty good. That's some pretty good damage.
So whether you save or not, it's going to suck for you.
And then you still had the 5d6 if you did save. Fourth level, this is where it gets weird. So it's hard to gauge. You fourth level players might help me out here.
Fourth edition.
Fourth edition, thank you. Not fourth level, fourth edition. It was a level 19 daily. I had to do some real digging. And it was an attack intelligence versus reflex. If it hit, it did 5d10 plus intelligence damage plus ongoing 10. If you saved, the ongoing became a 5 ongoing, and you had to save ends again. So like in 13th Age, every round at the end of your turn, I believe in 4th edition the same way, you made a saving throw. And if you made it the first time, it would drop, the damage would go from 10 ongoing to 5 ongoing. The problem I have with this, and even 3.5, the way they changed it 2d6 per level, it doesn't fit what you think the spell should do when you say disintegrate.
Right.
I'm starring some comments because we've got some really good ones.
See, it's an issue with the way D&D handles spells.
Yes.
Because what disintegrate is a green ray that you zap at somebody, and if it hits them, it's supposed to disintegrate them. But the hit is determined by their saving throw instead of the wizard rolling a d20 to hit.
Right. But in 4th edition, it was the wizard rolling an attack roll.
Right. So, in my opinion, I think it might have been better for them to handle it that way.
As an attack roll?
As an attack roll.
Yeah, that's
not with the weak damage. It's a 6th level spell. It should do what it says it does. And maybe you can say if you roll like regular to hit is some amount of damage, but if you roll a natural 20 or maybe a 19 or 20, something like that, or maybe something along those lines, then you're dead.
Several folks are making good comments. I am starring your comments, but I want to put out darts here real quick. It's connected. Even if you save, if the caster was high enough, he could possibly still kill you if you roll damage. That's true in 3.5. In fact, I believe the rules say that if the damage would kill you, you are disintegrated. So it's still possible. In 4th edition, I don't know about all that. It seemed a little cheeseballish.
So what's 5th edition's version?
Well, 5th edition says it was a dex save. If you failed to save, this is decent, 5d10 plus 40 damage, which I did a quick calculation, an average of 67 damage. If reduced to 0, then you're disintegrated.
That's not bad. Hit points aren't that great in 5th edition.
And you could use, and in 5th edition, you can move a slot up. So you could go up to a 7th, 8th, or 9th level version of disintegrate. If you went to a 9th level version, then it was 5d6 plus 9d6 plus 40, an average of about 98. So that's going to be pretty nasty. I'm going to highlight David Will's comment here real quick.
I don't think that in general that's not worth a 9th level slot compared to what you can do with 9th level spells.
In 5th edition, I don't know.
But it does give you an option. So in 5th edition, a 20th level caster, or when they get 17th level and higher, when you get 9th level spells, you only ever get one. Period.
Yeah, it's weird.
But being able to use higher slots gives you other 9th level options.
It does. David Will said that 4th edition got rid of all save or suck abilities, which I think was a bad move. Even a Medusa gave you 2 to 3 tries to shake it off. Yeah, and I can get it. Your body's slowly getting, more rigid and paralysis sets in. Then eventually you
A
see this
lot of movies depict it that way too.
Sure. So that's not the worst thing. I mean, I'm not pooping fully on it. Hungar, his comment leads us to this idea. Whole person is save or suck. Yeah.
Sure.
For other spells, say whole person is one, confusion could be one. Heck, I thought slow was kind of one. Dude, Joe, you use that spell in 3rd edition to just wreck some of my big monsters. I mean, they're
in combination with confusion and slow.
It was game over. Party wins. But I never really complained about that. I mean, the truth was, I was like, it sucked, but oh well. There's only so many times he's going to do it. And you know what? What's good for the goose? The party would love it if I threw a slow confusion combo. Heck, if I have 2 wizards, 1 cast slow and confusion in the same round.
Or if you're in the high level game,
yeah.
Morning Cadence Disjunction.
Oh, I did that.
That's a save or suck.
That was a party wrecker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the old version is an area of effect. And more recent versions are, 1 target, because heaven forbid.
And Hungar makes a good point. Whole person is a low-level spell. So you get that to 2nd-level spell. I remember clerics, I couldn't wait. The cleric couldn't wait till he got to 3rd or 4th level and get that whole person. It was deadly. I don't know how I feel about this. Darth says this, and 13th Age does it too. Darth Thick says, in 5e, all the spells I've seen get to save every round until you end the status effect. That's too good. That's too much rolling. That's too much of a chance. I mean, at some point...
A counter is not bad. Say a 3-2-1 counter.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Maybe, I guess, on some effects.
But if it's like 5, 6, 7, rounds later and you still haven't made a save yet.
You know what? I'm torn, because part of me is I get annoyed, and this is where I talked about even last week. Joe's probably more okay with it because he's more okay with the game does what the game does. That's just how the spell works. I'm fine. I'm more like, that just sounds stupid in a narrative. If I'm casting Disintegrate, something should be disintegrated or not. They resist my spell or they don't. And if they don't, sorry about your luck.
You're a pile of dust.
Yeah, let me go back to a couple of the comments, because I do think there's some good ones back here.
You might be able to make the case that its 6th level slot is too low for something like that.
You could.
You could make that case. But if it says disintegrate, it should freaking disintegrate.
Yep. And David Will says, to be fair, the DM didn't have to spend hours leveling up a monster just to have it die. I will partially agree with that. That is not true if you actually wanted to challenge most characters. Most well-built 3rd edition characters, which my players made very well-built characters, I was always modifying the monsters. Always. Mm-hmm. 1st level, 2nd level, 8th level, 20th level, didn't matter. They were batting above their weight class, almost always. So, yes, you're right, partially. In 2nd edition before, sure, but you're not building. In the TSR era, you're not building characters. They're getting what they're getting.
They get what they get.
Yeah, and that's not that bad.
Right. So who's it says something about save or suck. Sounds like some 5e player crying that they need more wheelchair ramps in the game. Dying is part of a risk-filled game. But this is way older than 5th edition. This was back in, we heard people whining about this back in maybe even before 3rd edition.
I know it happened in 3rd, probably before 3rd. People probably complained a little. This is something this is just a comment. I'd love to see what Joe thinks. Dave was talking to Martinson. I only remember 2nd edition where there was a list of type whatever poisons. Yeah, A through X or whatever. But I can only ever recall things having type F, which was the worst. Well, it's the best. So as a DM, I like to use that. I didn't use the purple worm poison, David, where you took 3d6 con damage very often. So until 3rd edition, when you could cure that by just, walking down the street. I don't disagree with this. Mr. Gwill says, better than DnD. He said, DnD has never handled poisons and venoms well. That's probably not wrong. Let's see here. What else we got going on with comments? Do you see any down there, Joe? Because I was
I
going
see a
backwards.
I see a off-topic comment that's kind of nasty. I don't get.
Oh,
That's out of left field. L
well, that's L for us, baby.
out of left field.
He brings the left field.
He's trying to poke a bear.
You see
I
bear
don't get it.
poking?
So yeah, there was a lot of save or die, save or suck,
Mhm.
back in the day for spells,
But
and
it's
we were all fine with it.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you want. Um, yeah, I think given there's nothing wrong with like using. It depends on what level of deadliness you want in your game. There's nothing wrong with. I guess if you want to have a few rounds before someone gets turned to stone. Yep, sleep Hungar right off the bat, first level spell. Save or you're screwed, and that was almost always uniformly against the monsters.
If you
It's
had a
so
low
rare.
level party back in the days and they got a sleep spell off, there was no saving throw. It was just you go to sleep and you get murdered. So that's a first level spell.
This is true. I've experienced this a couple of times I've played Rifts. Mercer Core says any spell that's so good it makes every encounter the same. I typically don't have in my games. In Rifts, Carpet of Adhesion, which just sticks people in an area in place, does not exist. Yeah, I had a dragon kind of dragon type creature get punked by that spell.
Well, that's kind of like web.
Yeah. Well, web can be save or suck.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't work well on every kind of creature. It works best on non-giant creatures.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're fighting things that are like ogres or something that big,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what strength the old web where it had a strength score that once it's so big or has such strength, then it doesn't really work well on them. But regular humanoids with typical strengths, you get a web on them, they're stuck, and there's nothing they can do.
I guess when I think about it with spells, I don't think, because everybody, and I knew they would bring up sleep and hold person. I was anticipating those things. I would have a little bit of, I would almost like to see those spells. I wouldn't say removed, but in whatever game I run, I don't want my low level wizards to have access to spells that pretty much just fully end encounters with several foes. I'd like to see them grow into that. I don't mind if they can take a dude out. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to shut this guy down. I'm going to kill this one guy or web this one dude. I'd like to see that ability in spells rather than mess with you got to save round for round for round. I would like to see the game have spells that are more appropriate and effective at lower levels, but doing low level things, and then mid level doing mid level things. Like there's a lot of spells I think, like for example, mid level especially, fly and haste. Dude, we don't need hasted flyers at 5th level. To me, that's just too soon. And I think haste, we talked about it in 3rd edition. Remember, Joe, I told you, haste could have easily been a 5th level spell, and everybody still would have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. The only time you'd even consider it, I say until 6, because in 6 you can get disintegrate. Then you got a question: do I want haste or do I want disintegrate? You probably want haste because in 3rd edition it would affect everybody, including the wizard. I mean, it was never not good. So
right. Well, L asked, "What spell is low level and calls?" He meant kills. Call. If it was a C, that would work too. Many people sleep.
Yes, it's
not of any level, but
it's indirect. I didn't say of any level. I said it would kill. It's a low level.
No. What I mean is, it doesn't work well on higher level creatures.
Fact, but at first
for
level,
the ones that it works on, it kills a scad of them, and it sleeps them, and then you kill them because, I know. I guess if you're using the old or the 3rd edition coup de grace nonsense, then. But if you're old school, if you're sleeping and I stab you in the neck, you're dead.
Yeah,
no to hit, no rolling damage or anything like that.
Oh, that's another thing that was I thought was stupid. That's non-spell. In 3rd edition, that wasn't stupid. It was better than some of the other things they did later on. If you're unconscious, sorry, did you guys hear that?
No.
Okay. But I think
overactive doggy out there. So
sorry, no, I had a overactive phone. Lady, is this a spell or something? HPV, or is that
HPV.
the virus?
Yeah, he
Okay.
means the virus.
Okay. Um, Look, I don't want to hamper wizards. I don't. I just like to see their spells match the level that they're at. But then again, I think in the end, I'm not an OSR guy really at heart, to be fair. I'm not an indie super creative weirdo guy, but I think I'd like to see the game have a true progression. But I'd like the spells to fit, to be maybe be labeled. Like if disintegrate's just going to damage you, then just call it a damaging spell.
Right.
Disintegrate
Call it
doesn't even
something
make
else.
yeah, burn alive.
Partial disintegrate.
Yeah. So, um, and yeah, there are many low level spells that can ruin a party's day, and
That's why you target the spellcaster.
yes, and that can be okay, unless of course I do it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that's just the name of the game.
right? It's if in an OSR games, that's the name of the game.
It's
Joe's
good
right.
for the party. It's good for the DM.
It's got to happen. It's got to
DM's
do
good
it.
for the party.
Here comes sleep on your first level party. If you're fighting a wizard, you
That's
should be
why I
careful.
don't mind a lot of your encounters, because there are spellcasters, but there's a lot of non-spellcaster encounters that you like to run because it's usually giants and undead and stuff.
I like the guys just kind of bust you in. But
Yeah.
the undead's coming up next. But
Yeah.
yeah, so for spells, I just like to see that happen. What about you, Joe? I guess you probably don't care because you've liked multiple versions of the game, as I have, and have you been relatively satisfied with how the Savers Suck has worked or not been a part of the game?
Well, I think over the years it's kind of disheartening when they nerf spells, and well, they'll say disintegrate is overpowered, but then they make a lower level spell that's more powerful,
Mm-hmm.
considering the changes. So I don't think that not TSR didn't, and I don't think Wizards of the Coast has ever handled new spells well. Right?
Okay.
They don't know how to place them in the levels. I mean, I don't know that they did that in the first place, because you have sleep.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
And you have some other spells that are like, that's really powerful for the level that it's in, and then you have other spells that's totally weak at this level.
Why am I getting this spell now? It's utter poop.
And then you have folks trying to, justify that, and the justification's usually garbage.
Well, and some people like Darth has said today and before, he's pretty good at playing wizard characters. He's pretty creative. He likes to. I know he made a comment about stealing his fellow wizard's spell book at night, and then giving it back to him after he copied all his spells down. So he's a crafty dude. He could probably take some weird little 5th level spell there's one in 5th level, I can't remember it, but I just thought, this is the weakest. Remember Airwalk? Do you remember that spell?
Yeah.
Can anybody that's listening that remembers Airwalk, so you could walk on the air up in the cloud, like, up really high. Maybe it affected a lot of people, but I remember thinking, isn't Fly better? And Airwalk's 5th level, Fly's 3rd.
Airwalk was 5th level. It might have lasted longer.
Somebody help me out if I'm misremembering, but there was times that I saw that. But it's hard to be. I think it depends on what you want. But if you're cool with it, do it. But there's a lot of discussion. There's lots of discussions to be had on spells and the saver suckitude of them.
Yeah, Fly was much better. I don't remember anybody thinking Airwalk was better, but the justification was, well, it's a cleric spell. It's a weaker version of Fly and a higher level, but since it's cleric related, well, then it's fine.
David Gwill says in 3E,
I'll be right back.
It's a cleric only spell and has a duration of 10 minutes per level. Okay, so I'm trying to remember, was Fly maybe 1 round per level and was only 1 person? So maybe you could have your whole party Airwalk. Elle says, what wizards only prepare sleep? One thing I tried to do when we were messing around with OSE the last year or two, and Hyperborea now, I think it was, they suggested that wizards roll randomly for their spells. So I made my wizard NPCs do the same thing, just to be fair. So if I rolled sleep, sorry about your luck. If I didn't, good job. So, yeah. Let's see. So Fly, David Gwill says Fly was 1 minute per level, and that was versus 10 minutes per level. Do you know if Airwalk was for the whole party? Yeah. Oh, Hungar. Yeah, Matt. Now, high level, okay, you're right. He says when you get to high level, you end up with things like mass hold person, mass suggestion, things like that. In third edition, you had something called deep slumber. It wasn't high level, it was fourth level, but that was a sweet spell. It could affect 10 hit dice creatures and put them to sleep. And David Will says fly and airwalk was single target. Yeah, it had 10 times longer duration. Okay, maybe it's okay. I don't know. Um, but back to Hungar's comment, I don't worry so much at high level because the characters tend to be pretty hardy. I mean, even in the old school games, you get to 12th, 14th level, maybe not even that high. You would have a lot of single digit saves. Um, so that was kind of a but I could understand it in some situations. Uh, what's up, Ryan David? Be good, dude. I know you can't hang around. That's all right, bro. Listen to your podcast today. It was good. I need to get back on your show. I had some things I wanted to ask Pony Finder, dude. But anyway, so the spell issue is definitely one that could handle a lot of discussion. But your mileage varies. If you like it, a game a little more, deal with it, dude. Save or die. I don't know what to tell you. It's life in a big city. Correct. Hungar says, but I think in response to my high level, there's always a chance. Yeah, that chance is very slim. And if it does happen, I would say that version of the game, second edition and earlier, sorry about your luck. So the next thing was Save or Suck I wanted to bring in. This is going to be connected. Monster examples. So this is now monsters having powers that affect players and characters in such a way that it's Save or Suck time. So my example was the ghoul. And interestingly enough, you don't see, you see some changes throughout the editions of D&D, but there's one part that's kind of profound. So in OD&D, the ghoul would paralyze any figure they touch except for elves. Now, there is no mention of a saving throw. I'm guessing that there probably was. Again, white box D&D, not my forte. Couldn't see it, but Cal agrees. Ghouls were nasty. My player characters agreed they were bad news. The rule cyclopedia, which is all I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to try to differentiate between Mincer box set or the Mincer versus the, oh gosh, help me out here, guys. I can't believe I can't even think of the names. I'm blanking. Eric J. Holmes, and then there was starts with is it an M? Moldvay. Yeah. But focusing on Rule Cyclopedia, it did allow you to affect up to ogre size. Again, elves were being accepted. And if you got hit, you had to save versus paralysis. Now, here's the interesting thing. In the Rule Cyclopedia, the duration of the ghoul's paralysis was 2d4 turns, right? If a turn is 10 minutes, that's a long time. In first edition, and I couldn't find it in the description, there was no mention of the duration at all for the paralysis, but it did say gnomes, dwarves, half-elves, and halflings, no elves. You did get a saving throw in both Rules Cyclopedia and first edition. Second edition was the same as first edition, but you only had you had a D6 plus 2 rounds. That's a big difference. Thank you, El, for Moldvay. Yes. That's a big difference from the 2d4 turns. So there's a power discrepancy, but it was save or suck. If you fail that paralysis save, if you guys weren't burning them down quick, there's going to be some dead PCs. Now, third edition starts to bring in the idea of would give you a fortitude save and hit by a claw or a bite, either one. It clarified that. Maybe second did too. I don't know. You got a saving throw, and it was a D6 plus 2 minutes. Actually, Hungar, I don't know. He says, isn't ghouls like a race and not undead? No, they were undead most of the time in D&D, but there was discussion in the 4th edition monster manual about them being an abyssal creature, And I think Wolfgang Bauer from Cobalt Press, he wrote a module where he created a new type of ghoul that was a race. Someone's have to double check me on that. That's normally the case. David Gwill says the fortitude save in third edition was pitifully low. It was 14. In 3.5, they buffed it up to 15. But in 3.5, the round, it went from D6 plus 2 minutes in third edition to D4 plus 1 rounds in 3.5. Really, really weak. You could, I think, have a ghoulish template, Flady says. Absolutely. Later on in the game, that became the big thing. And Halcyon H says Warhammer, they are, but not D&D. Oh, in D&D, they are undead. That is true. So, yeah, we've moved on to the monsters, and I'm using my ghoul as an example.
Oh, yeah, ghoul, rough.
Oh, yeah, right there. I mean, players generally are like, because they're supposed to be like a one-hit dice creature, or two, and you usually set them off at second or third level. But if you get more than a handful of them, I mean, last year, the party found out real quick, TPK City.
Yes.
And I had forgotten.
Six
of them, dude. Yeah.
6 ghouls, 3 attacks that all can paralyze. It'd be one thing if they all had, if it was one of their attacks would paralyze, but all 3 have the chance to paralyze.
Oh, Cal, a ghoul werewolf. How about a ghoul werewolf ranger with multi-attack? That would be awesome.
Whatever. You guys are weird. Ranger, a ghoul werewolf. Pick one.
In my 3E monster manual, David said it was DC of 12. Oh, okay. Yeah, though. Okay, well, I looked at my PDF and that's what it said. Who knows? Maybe I misread it. I'm getting old.
Well, back in the day, it was death save. And those were the toughest save for most people.
Okay, right. I'll see. What? L. Randy, if you're using 4E as an excuse for something, you should just, dude, I'm not using an excuse. I'm just saying, talking about it.
Okay, no one can mention 4th edition.
Don't mention 4th edition.
Go somewhere else.
Because I'm almost there at 4th edition. Now, 4th edition, it did get pretty weak sauce. Weaker. It said they did D6 plus 4 damage, and the target was immobilized. And if immobilized, that's by claw. If the save would end, if immobilized, when the next time they attacked with their bite, it could stun you. So it doesn't sound so great. Probably once you get past 3E, it's pretty weak. Definitely in old school it was deadly. The ghoul had a lot of save or suck. In 5th edition, they pulled it back from the weak sauce that was 4th. If the claw hit, then you had to make a con save, DC 10 or paralyzed for 10 rounds. That's a good bad A. But the bite didn't paralyze, not from what I read in 5th edition. So as I look at it, the most interesting thing I had mentioned earlier, Joe, is that in Rule Cyclopedia, Nerdy Ogre, what's up, dude? One of my partners in crime in the Rifts, we destroyed a whole town. It was very sad. Duration 2d4 turns compared to some of the other durations, which was rounds and minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And Rule Cyclopedia ghouls would be even worse, dude. So, but I was just saying
2d4 turns. That means you're done for, especially if more than half the party gets paralyzed. In our fairly recent example,
it's almost like the law of diminishing returns, like what happened to us in that ghoul encounter. I nabbed 2 of you right off the bat. Then the second round, I got 2 more. And the next round, I got the second to last guy. Then the 6th player, Jeff, was all alone. And he looked around and said, I'm down 5-1, 6-1, I'm running. And then he failed his save. So it was lights out, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I guess for me, ghouls were, I admit, I love monsters. And I didn't mind them being scary. To me, again, that saver sucked. They were. I would say that.
Okay, so zombies, who cares? I mean, they can be tough or not, but it's just plain. You get hit, it's hit point damage. Skeletons the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start getting into the tougher undead, like the ghoul, I don't know which other ones you're going to bring up, but many of them have pretty nasty effects that go along with their hits. And in the older editions, any hit they make is that it does that thing. It's not just
Yeah.
one of their attacks.
Cal brings up white power. So
Yeah,
yeah, the level drain, that's a class by itself, isn't it? The
yeah.
level draining power was so heinous in old school, but honestly, the way they gave you saving throws, I thought were cool at first, but it almost makes it wasn't an automatic win. But if you had a cleric, you got restoration at second level, lesser restoration, or maybe you had to
It
get the
can be tough in the fight,
yes in the
right?
fight. Right.
So because if especially vampires and others that do multiple levels, two, one or two, or if it's two or more, then and vampires get two attacks around at least, unless you're Randy's playing them and they get three or four, and each hit is two levels. Then even if it is the temporary third edition temporary levels, it can still wreck your day because you
Yeah.
can lose a character easily from that. And then it doesn't matter if you get that saving throw, that other saving throw. So it all depends on the situation.
Let me clarify to L here. He says, Randy, so you don't like sleep spells, don't like ghouls, and don't like the fact that you can't cast sleep on ghouls. I don't believe I said two of those
Any,
three things. It's not that I don't like sleep spells. I think they're a little too broadly useful at first level. I love ghouls. In fact, I said the opposite. I love to use them, and nowhere did I ever say sleep should be cast on ghouls. I'm fine with my undead being stupid powerful, as Joe knows. I have no
Mhm.
issue with that. I'm happy to make ghouls completely unstoppable. Ghouls are not people; they're undead.
Yeah. So
Yes,
don't clerics turn ghouls? Yes.
they can.
However,
Hmm.
when you don't have a cleric, nobody can turn the ghouls.
Or if you don't get initiative and the ghouls attack your cleric first because they would.
And at our level, turning a ghoul wasn't automatic. It was kind of hard.
No, I could look it up, but at second or third level, you're going to have to work a little bit for it.
It was essential, so it worked different. The
Yeah,
numbers weren't on the D20, they were on
2d6.
2D6, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure the number was 7. So
hmm
that's definitely not guaranteed.
it's the highest chance on 2d6, but it's still not like in the end you got to roll the number of creatures you turn, and if you don't turn that many, I mean, here's the deal: the biggest problem was they got your cleric. That was Joe. They
Yeah.
got you first,
Yeah.
and they shut you down. Um, it says you mentioned Ghoul as Saber Suck. Thought no, that's not okay. So L, you're not understanding. I actually don't think Saber Suck is bad
No,
in
no.
general. I just it's just
So we aren't
listen.
saying these things are necessarily bad for the
No,
game.
no.
The claim has been for the longest since third edition or maybe slightly before
Mhm.
that it was. But we don't think that they are.
I'm pro
Now,
Saber Suck.
now having a sleep spell that can take out 40 people, the origin of that spell was from a massive warfare type system.
Mhm.
And the particular name for that, I'm drawing a blank, but it's
Mhm.
I don't think it's applicable to. It wasn't really applicable to D&D at first edition,
Right.
but it still took out lots in there. The old D&D, the white box, and then the basic D&D, those still had high numbers. First edition, the numbers dropped off a little bit, but not that much, and it's just really powerful for a first level spell.
Right.
Yes, we're doing kind of a devil's advocacy
A little
type.
bit. I mean, I just got on a tangent with sleep. I thought, well, it's just for me. If I ever get around to make my own game, there won't be a domination area effect spell for a first level wizard.
This should be said by Ricardo Montalban because he would say it correctly.
Yeah. Uh,
Pure Corinthian ghoul leather.
right. So, but yeah, ghouls were pretty nasty little critters for even
So
now.
it made you nervous,
Yeah.
which would play D&D is not nowadays with Wizards of the Coast making everything all bubble wrapped.
Right.
But back in the day, like we've said many times, the game adventuring is a dangerous career. It's a dangerous activity.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
not having anything put the fear in you, fear for a player isn't really fear, but it's like, holy crap, my character's going to die.
Yeah.
But there's a ghoul there,
Right.
ghoul, because we know that they attack 3 times. So
Oh,
You're going to have to make 3 saving throws.
yeah. I mean, technically you could. Now, well, I won't go into that. That'll sidetrack things. Other monsters, like Joe had a really bad experience with the Bodak, the Beholder's Death Ray,
Rule 1.
poisonous creatures, which Martinson got to enjoy. He mentioned earlier he got to enjoy some poison snakes early on in the campaign. I mean, literally before he even got to roll one, before his fighter got to roll one time to attack. Basilisk Medusa, Undead Level Drain, which is like king of the screw. Yeah, but I don't. When I say that, I'm not against it. All those creatures were written as if these are dangerous things. You better be ready if you're going to fight those things. And the game has weakened that. And I understand to a point, like to go back to what David Gwill said, you spend a lot of time on this character in the build process post WotC, DnD, any version, 3rd edition beyond, a lot of people, even Dungeons and Delvers. You spend time placing all your cool choices in all the cool places, and you've been playing that character for 2 years. He's 11th level, or whatever level he is, and he faces off against the vampire, and whack, 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 you're 2nd level. And that's pretty rough. Yeah.
And it is rough, but and we get attached to our characters. And I think as time wore on in our hobby, the idea that we're playing characters in a novel or a movie,
right,
and the need to make sure they live so their story can be told or whatever, has prompted many people, even me, to want to have something like hero points or some other thing as a safety net.
Yeah, we talked about that years ago.
Yeah. And that's a different game.
Yeah.
So old school dangerous occupation, you have a lot of character turnover, and you should just shut your mouth and do it.
I got to post this. Darth has, sorry, you had one. Do your thing.
At Biggest Geekus, their story of them clocking into Fantasy Starbucks can be told. Yes.
Yeah. And David Will made a good point. Beholders, they had a variety of saber screw. Yeah. Finger of Death, Disintegrate, Flesh to Stone. Love those eye tyrants. Not a thing wrong with them.
No, Beholders are awesome.
They were so cool. I love
them. They're another creature that you're like, holy crap, it's a Beholder. Everybody run. We have to be really strategic. Mm-hmm. Everybody, hold on to your butts, because he has a death spell eye beam, right?
Yeah. It's been so long, Joe probably remembers better than I do, but I'm trying to recall the giants in 2nd edition and 1st edition, but I know that in 3rd, if you set it up for an appropriate level of encounter, whatever that's supposed to mean, but you could, I know what they meant. Often they weren't good enough if you didn't do something to the giants. But the thing about the giants, which was not save or suck, just getting hit.
Yeah, hit one time. I mean,
if you weren't a fighter type, you couldn't take a hit from a giant. It was
worse in 3rd edition.
Yeah, he would knock you straight up out of the game. You're dead. You're hitting negative. So yeah.
No one wants to get hit by a giant.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, but with monsters, I guess for me, just like with spells, there's got to be an element of danger. And so spells are dangerous for the monsters mostly and the players, but monsters are definitely dangerous for the players, the player characters. And I'm fine with super death stuff. But I mean, I get it. We played 13th Age. We still play it. There's not really a place for save or suck in 13th Age or 4th edition. So the monsters effects were a little bit less. So
one moment. I have a dog that's going to get in trouble.
Okay, get that dog. So before we move on to the next topic, I want to see what Mercer Core is talking about me. I want Randy to live, so I gave him great gear. Yeah, I need it because my character is horrible and I roll like poop. Unfortunately, he also got a rocket bike, rolls more nat ones than anyone I've ever seen. That's fact, son. I'm sorry. You've chosen the wrong guy for dice. So I straight up have stinky rolls. I think last night, the few rolls that I made were all single digits. Yeah. Thanks, Nerdy Ogre. I think that is a wise decision. I need a backup character. David Gwill says, in 4E, Beholders could feasibly petrify or kill you, but you got 2 saves to avoid it. 2 saves is not as bad as a save every round, but I'm still not liking it. So, Iron Man passing by. What's up, brother? He's driving by our neck of the woods right now. Sweet. Yeah. So, Mercer Core, I'm sorry, dude. I'm surprised I've lived this long. That's the truth of the matter. My rolling has been utter dog crap. I think I had about 2 or 3 rolls in the second session where we end up trying to help that town where I think I rolled something other than single digits, and I was changing dice too. I wasn't even using my old metal dice that was screwing me all the other sessions. And first, right off the bat, sweet, a 1. Nightlight can suck even worse now, but it was still fun. I have a good time. It doesn't matter. That's kind of my modus operandi when I play. Yeah, it has been pretty forgiving. It hasn't been in the most worst situation, except maybe when other people are in trouble. But I just can't. It's, he's trying to be a cool superhero, but I tell you, Nightlight is not that cool. Oh well, I'm glad I got the gear though. Rock on. All right, so let's see here. See if there's any more good comments on the monstrosity. The monsters. Oh, what did Darth Theek said? Even today's technology, when excavating ruins, it's quite dangerous. Why would anyone expect in a medieval fantasy game? Yeah, you should expect danger. Right on. Cal had the funny comment. Are we medieval or we're maxed evil? Right on. Maxed evil. That's true, Darth. Thank you. Randy's been a DM for too many years. We'll call that about 40. And his dice rolls in the DM's favor. Yes, even when I'm playing a character, it sucks. I am not the king of rolling. I will say Martinson, though he had that bad roll with the snakes this year, he tends to roll pretty good. So he's got a decent roller. A couple of our players in the group can roll pretty well, but I don't know. I'd have to say that I don't roll too much. Though, I played in this Earth X game that I'm running. I've talked about. My buddy Ben ran us through Warp Shell, which is using index card RPG. I had some pretty good rolls. I think I actually rolled 2 or 3 natural 20s in the very first session of that game. So, sometimes, what is it? A broke clock is right twice a day. So, right. I was telling my friends that. Mercer said the great thing is nobody will ever accuse you of cheating, no matter how opportune the timing might be on a natural 20. Yeah, I think it was our very first session together. I start my rolls. We had everybody together, the whole group. I'm rolling poop, 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 poop. And I finally rolled like a 15. And I'm new to everybody. I was like, guys, I'm not lying. And they're like, we believe you. It's just, yeah, I don't fudge, dude, on either side. Happens, it happens. So, and it's just not worth it. I roll too bad. No one would believe me. So, all right. This next part, I was really hoping to have Joe here, but hopefully he'll be back in a second. Oh, there he is. There's my dude. About ready to join. Patty's back. Sweet. Joe's back. Before I jump into the next part of Saber Suck, Darth says, I have had players try and curse some of my dice after a series of great rolls. Yeah, we've had I don't think Patrick's Demo's on the show today. He has a classic Cabin Con moment. That's where all my buddies get together end of the year. You guys heard us talk about it. In May, every May, we get together and game for 4 days. Patrick was just having a horrendous day. So I think he said he rolled almost 5 natural ones in a row. I think it was 4 or 5. Remember his barbarian? Yeah. Patrick got up without a word, just walked out the door, walked to the lake. We looked at, what is he doing? And it was kind of cold at this time of the year. And he chucks that dice way out into the center. And that's become a thing. Guys get mad. Yep. The dice get tossed out there.
They brought, I think that, I don't know if they always bring it, but there was a few of them. They brought this fairly complicated slingshot.
Oh, that was a great year.
Industrial sized slingshot.
They were throwing dice out that was
so cool. We're dog sitting.
Oh, you have a new puppy or something?
Yeah, we're just watching one of our cousins' little doggies, and our newest dog, Elizabeth, is not happy
Oh, she's real jealous, isn't she?
Yeah, she's
Some
she
dogs
was
are.
she had been sleeping all day and decides to now get up and mess around. So
Well,
yeah.
my boy is doing pretty good. He's hanging out. How do I switch this around? Maybe I do this. Let me see. Can I see
Yep,
him?
yep, yep.
There's Mr. Puppy Dog. I won't say his name because he'll hear me, but he's asleep. That's my tiny little 70-pound pit. So he's doing good.
Yeah.
We've had a good day. So anyway, so let's move back to the Saver Suck. We talked about spells, we talked about monsters, and I wanted to talk about traps, but I had a bit of a problem. There's not much to say about traps, which is okay. I think it's kind of an assumed thing. So traps are the perfect. When you look at, oh goodness, what was the name of that series of books? Grimtooth. I gave away
Grimtooth.
that
Yeah,
Ultimate
yeah.
Grimtooth. I gave that away early on in the show, um, and it was Grimtooth's traps. And early on, even later on, those traps were devious.
Oh, sure, sure.
Hey,
They're
Duncan
very
Bradley.
elaborate. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
deadly and elaborate.
Patty can't stay, but he does miss us. Okay, I want to get on his show. We need to talk. So uh, it's a good thing too. 28 millimeters. He said, Randy, the role player. That's all I got because I got no tactics and I got no dice. So if I can't get into my character, I'm practically useless. So, but thank you for that. So uh, later, Patty. So traps in OD&D, I was reading, they just gave you descriptions on page 6, tricks and traps in a sentence form, no stats, some suggestions on how dangerous they were, and about a paragraph or two. It was very wide open. It's like, hey, you might want to have these stairs drop and become a slide down into some sort of pit, right? And they left it wide open. And I'm sure because of the wargaming and the deadliness of old school, they would have been fine with if there's a fire, like a raging furnace, everybody burns up.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
there's no save. No, you
yeah, I
fall into
wonder.
it. Okay, so you fall into a pit with
Hmm.
spikes.
Hmm.
You're dead.
Maybe, but I would imagine
No,
something like maybe.
no. What I'm saying, that's not necessarily an unreasonable position.
No.
You fall into a vat of acid. Well, you're dead, or lava,
Hmm.
or any number of traps that you see in any sort of media that we consume as nerd adjacent stuff.
Do you think
And
go ahead.
and you know, it's no wonder they didn't want to. It's no wonder a lot of traps are deadly, like Grimtooth. But maybe they just let either one of two things. They left it open for the DM because they didn't want to step on anybody's toes, or perhaps it was for word count. They didn't think it was an important part of the game, um, or something maybe they didn't even consider. But we
Yeah.
know that they did because of the Tomb of Horrors.
Oh yeah, and they were devious.
Yeah.
Gary's Tomb of Horrors, classic death pit. I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
death trap. Um, World Encyclopedia had a small discussion on page 261 with some examples, including a few statistics. None terribly deadly, though. That surprised me. All the examples were kind of lame. Lame?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's the wrong word. Kind of generous in terms of the damage. It wasn't terribly bad. First edition had a cool chart on page 216 DMG. Not much in the way of description or stats, just description of this trap might do that, this trap might do this. Second edition, now people help me with this. I told Joe beforehand, I could find nothing. They made comments about traps, but there
Mm-hmm.
was no true trap section telling you here's how you build them, here's what they should do. I guess in TSR, maybe that era was the DMs are going to do traps because that's just what they're going to do, and they're going to be whatever they make them, right? And
I don't know that. I don't know what the deal is with that. You'd think it would be worth some kind of mention.
some sort of codification. There were things like, well, if you fall this far, you take this kind of damage. Acid splash does this kind of damage. In second edition, there was an example: if you throw someone splashes acid, it would, how if you miss your target, what would be the radial effect? Rolling a D12 or D8. Yeah, they were correct.
All
There
over
were
the place.
all over the place, but there was no I was surprised that the rules didn't just
Have something.
yeah, at least there's a few. I guess you know what? It was very DIY. I'm not complaining, but what's up, DM Blackwall? Glad you're here, brother. So it was not one of those things that maybe it's with my more modern mindset now that I've played so many editions of D&D, especially third edition when it got super rule for everything and everything's got a rule. So I expected that. And third edition absolutely did. It gave you an extensive discussion on how to set an attack roll, damage, DC. Heck, traps had CRs. They had challenge ratings in third edition. It was very interesting. Um, there was a Whale of the Banshee trap in 3.5. 3.5 had an extensive list of examples. Yes, they did a whole book. I think in 3.0 and 3.5. 3.0 was called Traps and Treachery 1. I gave that to Bruce over at Dick's Division. Sent that to him, I think, just because he wanted it.
But wasn't that a third party deal?
Yes, it was third party, but Darth may remember something that was first, was WotC. I thought third edition, if you wanted guidance, they really gave it to you. And so in many ways, I would call that superior. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying be imaginative, do what you want with traps. Because I do remember in second and earlier, I wasn't very, what's the word? I wasn't ingenious on my trap making. I would just throw in some damage dealing traps. I used no rules. I just made them whatever I thought they should be. I wrote it down, and that's what it was. Spear comes out of the wall. How much damage? 4d10.
Right.
Arrow
it's
comes
going
out.
very fast.
It's very fast. You didn't expect it.
Broad blade spear, very sturdy, 4d10.
Yeah, and a scything trap. I thought
that was. I remember you wrestling with a lot of those kinds of traps and saying it really should just be death.
It should cut your head off or your arm off.
There's no way you can get away from this. You're dead.
There was a time where I used the sword of sharpness description to be what part of your body it cut off, and that was. But
you're also fond of it's not a scythe trap, but it's the pendulum death.
Yes.
The pendulum bladed pendulum type thing. Yeah.
Wow. In riffs, how about carpet of adhesion, then the pendulum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. 28 millimeter. This is all about save or die. That was the name of the game. So, no, they did not, sir. He said, did the PC Spear do it? No, I was total cheeseball.
Yeah,
so,
who cares? Doesn't need to.
No, it has super cool attack roll. I don't know. I'm not saying I was fair. That's just what I did.
It's a trap. Locate the traps. If you don't locate the traps, sorry about your luck.
Brother, there was no rules.
No,
Let's be honest. So,
but then on the other hand, you're not going to have a bunch of standardized traps all over the place.
No.
You're going to have unique traps in almost all the places. I mean, pit traps are fairly common, but it doesn't mean they're all the same depth, that they're all the same spikiness. Maybe there's some maybe the spikes at the bottom, if you happen to live, maybe they've got, rat poop all over them. So you got diseases to worry about as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're poisoned. Maybe it's not just a spiked pit trap, but once you hit the spiked pit, there's also a lever you hit and then it floods. I mean, there's all kinds of traps. A few examples help, but it shouldn't be taken as these are the traps that you're going to face, and these are the ones you should use. Maybe that's another reason why they didn't really describe it originally.
Yeah, I've been really bad, derelict in my duty. JB Garrison just arrived at Rumble. Thanks, buddy. He's asking about what's the latest for the streaming. Is Rumble the main place now? I said no, though I think all of us secretly wish that it would be.
We're doing both, YouTube and Rumble.
Yeah. So
doing exclusively Rumble would probably be a bad idea.
You wouldn't see probably a lot of comments. I'm trying, dude. JB, I'm trying, but I'm horrible at it. So Ashman. Good night, Hungar. Take care, bro. Oh, Arn Man's got a comment about AD&D and earlier required players to describe how traps were defeated. Right. No, just roll to disarm. Thief could only disarm lock type traps. Okay.
So traps that are in the lock itself, not just traps that are out in the hallway or whatever.
Which is probably why those Grimtooth traps having 4 and 5 phases to them were trying to challenge that player.
No.
You don't think
trying to screw them. That's what
Grimtooth
is about, screwing the players.
Grimtooth was a just a plethora of challenges to make you a better player. Right, Iron Man?
It's an extended version of Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah. And hey, what could be better than that? Just a quick nod to 4th edition and 5th, even though we mostly hate them. 4th edition, they had very little on traps and hazards. They did have levels. They had a little chart. They called it more of a skill challenge, but they had DCs from easy, moderate to hard, and some levels 1st to 30th. Looks like Legion's with you. He hated Grimtooth.
Well, I'm not saying I hated it, but I understand why people would hate it. One thing is, it's the idea that of the complexity of those traps is kind of ridiculous, because the amount of time someone would spend underground digging around, most of them are, subterranean places. It's just a little ridiculous, but
yeah,
lots of things about our game can be taken as ridiculous.
Yes.
So if the DM wants to use super deadly traps, and Grimtooth's traps are just deadly. They're not a challenge. They are death traps.
I guess
general.
It's like puzzles and stuff. I think those kind of traps can just be such a difficult thing to figure out. And I don't disagree. Legion says Grimtooth is clown shoes, over the top nonsense. I don't think Venger wrote Grimtooth. That's an old thing.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. Bruce wanted to hop in because, he had to get his word in. I'll have to listen to this later. Sorry about not helping you with your templated Jotun Blood Giants fresh out of the advanced bestiary. Right on. Every time you mention that, you are getting a little pop on the screen, Bruce. And I know you know that. DM Blackwall said he enjoyed Grimtooth. I did too, but I felt kind of sad for the players, because I would look at them like, I would never figure this out. There is no way I would figure this out. I would be dead. So
what? How much time? The idea is, I think, with some people, is how much time as a group do you spend slowly slinking through an underground area to avoid these deadly traps? To me, if a DM loves Grimtooth and he says, "Hey, I've got a dungeon for you," all the players are going to say, "Screw you." A lot of the times.
Correct, Bruce. Flying Buffalo. That's the company that did that.
But there are players that like it, they get into that, so they'll get into the intricacies of the discovering and the describing how they're going to overcome. And then there's the DMs that love to employ them. It all depends.
And some people, and DM Blackwall says he liked them in both directions as a player, as a DM. He probably likes puzzles too. And that's okay. If that's your jam, do it. I think I'm less inclined. I do like the idea of traps. I mean, even when you said, I feel like someone that's protecting treasure would probably go a lot closer to, especially if they're high level or even very wealthy, to complicated traps that only they, but probably one, because you don't want to have a bunch of them everywhere, because then you got to remember them.
Right. So if it's just protecting your bathroom or just a hallway that doesn't lead to really anything, sometimes traps are just they're down the length of the hallway. It's just there. It's not protecting anything.
Right.
It's just in the middle of this hallway, there's a pit trap. Sorry about your luck.
And those aren't bad either. People screwing around your dungeon, you don't want them there. That's a good way to kill them. I think traps make sense in dungeons. I just know that I was not, after early days, I was not huge with that. Yes, L, that is a classically awesome trap. 40-foot drop pit with a 10-foot gelatinous cube. Yeah, just suck it, dudes. That's all there is to it. Just suck it. 5th edition, they had save DCs for 3 different types of difficulties, traps. They separated them into what's called setbacks, dangerous, and deadly. So some traps were just a slight setback. Some were dangerous, probably took hit point damage. It was fairly significant. And deadly, I guess, could kill you. And they had them gauged for all the levels, for level areas 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 16, and the DCs were set up. So I think you got more guidance after 2nd edition on traps, on how to build them. Except if you were a hardcore D&D fan like me and I bought the modules, I got a lot of guidance, because they were, as Elle said, they were in the adventure.
They were in there.
So I used them. Yeah, and there were some that were super deadly, and that just told me, all right, kid gloves off.
So if you're a player and you love the challenge of finding and overcoming these traps, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can really bog down gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think if you can describe to your DM and say something like, "Hey, when we go down the hallway, we're doing this," and then subsequently you just say, "Hey, we have our standard operating procedure for being
Right.
underground," and then you don't have to describe every little thing every time you go 10 feet down a hallway. Well, what are you doing in this 10-foot section? What are you doing at that 10-foot section? And so on.
Yep.
There's probably a way to streamline it so it doesn't bog down.
You guys
But
used to say that standard operate. You say SOP.
Yeah.
We're sopping it. Dar said this, and this is depending on your flavor. He said he got a thief so paranoid when raiding a master thief tomb that by the end he was searching every 5x5, I think,
5x5, yeah, probably.
square he moved and would only walk where he had searched. Well, and you know what? Some people dig that. To each their own, is what I say. You know,
And it may be fun for you at your table, and it may not be fun for other people at their table.
and to be a shame at a convention though, if that's kind of your gig, I would hope you would mention that as a DM that your style, old school, check every inch, be careful, describe how you're entering the room, how you're handling the handle. I forgot who mentioned that. It was Arnman that said in AD&D they expected the players to be that. There's a part of that I like. I'd like to see a little bit more in that. I would not want. I don't want it to be third edition. I fart the door. Find, remove traps, and let me just roll. I check it. I'd like it to be a little more than that. I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that path. That's a different discussion. But save or sucks. Are they? Do you think they're more for traps? Are they more acceptable to players than spells or monsters, or the same level?
It's probably the same level.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think there's any difference in how one reacts to the save or suck level of traps.
Yeah.
Between spells or monsters or traps. It's all the same paradigm.
I had to kind of wrap this topic up. I had some miscellaneous things. I'll leave it to you how far you want to go into this. There are some other situations like magic resistance, spell resistance, damage resistance, DR, that could be sort of not save or suck, but just kind of you suck. I mean, in old school D&D, if you ran into a Rakshasa, I believe this is right, and you had to have a +3 magical weapon to hurt it, or
I think it had to be blessed.
Yeah, a blessed weapon. It had to be +3 too. Or
I think so. There was I'm saying it had to be a +3 blessed weapon, and therefore it might even had to be silver. I don't know.
And I believe you could not hurt him. He took no damage in the old school
Rakshasa needed some really specific thing.
Which
otherwise, it was casting 9th level spell, or maybe not 8th. It's immune to everything below 8th level spells or something.
I'm gonna have to let my dog out. He just woke up, and I'll let you take over for a little bit, decide how far you want to go on some other ideas.
Right. So I mean, it's not quite save or suck, but you can turn the corner, and if you can turn the corner in your low level and there's a Rakshasa there, you're just dead. But one of the things he has here is flying creatures with only melee weapons. So if you have a whole party worth of characters and nobody has a ranged weapon, you have failed D&D. Everyone that can use a ranged weapon should have one, especially once you get past your first adventure at first level, because then you should be able to afford at least a crossbow or a sling or something. It's kind of dumb for a fighter to just have a sword and no bow and call themselves an adventurer. I mean, if you're a town guard and you're just walking the streets and you're a fighter, maybe you don't need a bow. But if you're an adventurer out in the wild and you don't have a bow,
you
don't know how to play the game, and you deserve the death that you that you are going to get from that flying creature.
Yeah.
Like what's the one you liked using a lot? Like a periton. There's the one that what's the one that has spikes in their tail?
Oh, the Manticore. Yeah, that's
Like
one
a
of my
manticore.
favorites. Yeah.
Right.
I just love the idea of their tail whipping spikes at you. That just looks, in my mind's eye, super cool.
Right. So the chances of you like maybe roping it and bringing it down to the ground are going to be very slim.
Yes.
Um,
Unless you have a
maybe
prestige
there's
class from 3E, a prestige class rope master.
yeah, maybe there's some favorable terrain that you can maybe run up on and dive on the top of the flying creature, perhaps.
Right.
Or you get caught with you've gotten caught with your pants down and you haven't bought any ranged weapons. You have to run.
Yep.
You know.
Mm-hmm. So that's not so much a save or suck. I do think the magic resistance and stuff comes a little close to that, but to me, it's part of the game. I didn't like the golf bag. People say the golf bag approach in 3E. They had so many DRs that were back then were much tougher than they were in 3.5. 3.5, they definitely softened them, in my opinion, because they used to have more like 10, 20, 30.
So I don't see the golf bag being any different from having 15 different items in your backpack that are useful when you're out in the wilderness. So you don't necessarily need to have 5 different swords, but you do need to have if you're a fighter, you need to have a melee weapon. You need to have a ranged weapon, and maybe you need to have a blunt weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're out in the wilderness, you're going to have a little hand axe. You're going to have a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have a bow because at the very least, you're going to go hunt some rabbits or a deer or something to eat. At the very least, especially if you're doing some long travel. So just on the merit of if you're out in the wilderness trying to survive and you haven't brought the proper set of equipment,
yes,
that's on you. That's not on the game.
No.
So if nobody has a ranged weapon or attack of any kind, and you can't cry about the DM having a flying creature that has a breath weapon, then you can't reach them.
Yeah. Well, and Nell makes a comment too, and it's not exactly the same. He said, what is the difference from flying or swimming when on a boat? Yeah, if you're on a boat, a creature that can hurt your boat, like a kraken, he mentions a kraken in the next comment. Yeah, you got to be, if you're on the boat, you better be prepared to deal with water creatures. You better have some breathe water. You better have some, what was that spell? Freedom of movement. It was called something different in old school where you could move in the water. Was it freedom of movement? That doesn't sound right. That's like a 3rd edition.
Freedom of movement?
Was that a spell in old school?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you got to be prepared for that. So those aren't so much save or suck as just like you better be ready or it will suck. Bruce, all Biggest Geek is telling me is that you all play D&D wrong. You need to have hirelings with you to hand you your preferred weapon for the job.
Weapon bearers, obviously.
What I'm saying is you should have vicious DR on your creatures and make the players suck it and deal with it, and don't hand them 7 magic swords with all the cool DRs.
I mean, they generally do weapon weights wrong in the game. The swords don't weigh 30 pounds.
Right.
Not even the great swords. They don't really weigh 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason why you can't have a long sword, a dagger, an axe, and a short bow as a fighter. If you're a wizard, then you just have you have your staff, and
good luck.
You don't, and you just rely on other people.
Right.
The cleric may have a couple of weapons. By the way, dumb. They couldn't use sharp weapons
no.
In early versions. Stupid.
Pull it out of the air. But I guess they were trying to make them unique. That's true. Were there any other RPG? Are there other games that had any save or suck situations that you could remember? I couldn't remember much that you
not that are really thematically different.
That was unique to the game is what I was thinking of. I couldn't think of one. I haven't played a huge variety of different games outside of D&D. I played a few. I can't remember where there was kind of, this save or suck is unique to this particular game. What about?
No, go ahead. I don't think so, because it's still kind of a magic effect. There's games that have like not fear, like, well, what about corruption or loss of humanity or things like that, where you turn the corner, and then there's this horrible creature that causes your mind to break a little bit.
Right.
Okay. Whether or not there's a resistance, there might be some games out there that are like that. That's kind of a save or suck kind of thing that people might complain about because, they don't realize that the game they're playing is grim and gritty.
Or Cthulhu. I mean, if you're facing off a great old one, you're in trouble.
But
a great old one save and suck.
I don't know if Rifts or Palladium has situations like that. Usually it's just attack and damage.
Lady says Rift's horror factor, which I don't quite understand that, dude. Feels a little bit, some suckitude. Okay. And DM Blackwall says Cyberpunk D10 with 10% crit fail rate. What does that mean? That if you get crit, you got to, what is that? I'm not sure what that means.
Critical fail. So maybe there's a 10% chance with a D10, maybe if you roll a 1, there's a critical failure.
Yeah, he said TP. He's heard of TPKs off a critical fail chain. Oh, Aliens, the RPG.
Oh, sure. There's things like that there.
Remember that cascading
screaming. We're all screaming at each other.
Yeah, it's like it's like a horror check or what it was called.
You scream, I scream, we all scream for
Aliens. Yeah, God. We're like, so Joe's guy in a panic after he gets terrified, fear check, and then someone else screams, and that makes Joe roll again, and so everybody's just in a nonstop scream.
Half the party was like, they weren't quite puking their guts out, but they were all screaming or they were sitting down and not moving, not catatonic, but just out of action.
Oh, and Mercer Core clarifies it sounds like it's like kind of like Aliens. Horror factor is a roll against freaking out if you wake up and there's a xenomorph in your room. Roger that. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Or any activity followed by xenomorph.
Yeah.
Horror factor.
In Aliens, yes. I mean,
whether you wake up or you finish eating a donut or you turn the corner or you finish pooping, xenomorph involved in any of that.
It's bad news, dude.
Yeah. The only situation where it's not necessarily bad is you've just cleaned and loaded your pulse rifle.
Correct.
And you're sighting down the barrel. And the xenomorph pops up.
And you have 2 or 3 buddies right beside you with the same pulse rifle.
The same pulse rifle. Then you're like,
alien's in trouble. We'll fight the aliens.
I can handle this. Boom, 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 boom. But,
Short
anything else?
And that's not so great for fighting a queen.
Correct.
That won't help you.
So you need grenades on that thing.
Yes, you do. Oh, yeah, okay. I think that's about all I got for the save or suck. So the discussion was really just this idea of, kind of, I guess my final comment is, and you can have one too, Joe, the actual final comment. I think save or sucks are fine. I think it's a decision of what you want to have at your table. If it hurts your feelings that characters lose beloved characters, you may want the save or suck to be toned down. And that's okay too. I mean, if you're like in this world, there's not a lot of, people are heroes. They're big, they're big damn heroes. So they don't get their tickets punched in one shot. It doesn't happen. Right. That's 13th Age's, premise. And we have a lot of people that enjoy our 13th Age games. So I guess there's a place for that.
Right. So we had kind of the D&D weirdness thing with hit points, right? So the idea that you can get poked multiple times until you have 1 hit point and you're still fine. But that's kind of counterbalanced by all of these save or die, save or suck situations where one roll of the die and you can have 5,000 hit points and it doesn't matter. You fall over and the monster eats your face off. So I think that might not suit a lot of people's idea of good gaming, but those of us with more old school sensibilities, we like that. I don't think we don't really think of that.
No.
Tying those two things together. And I don't know that I doubt it was designed intentionally like that. It just happened to be that way.
JB Garrison says alien screaming. So everyone starts saying, game over, man.
That is the most often quoted movie during gameplay. And I know there are folks that will cringe about movie quotes during gameplay, but
Oh,
that's
how can
us.
we
That's
love it?
us.
We
That
love
and
it.
Princess Bride.
Yeah. All right. You want to tell them to do the things, man? Because we've been talking a long time and we never told them to do the stuff.
Yeah, hour and a half already.
I know. Look at us, just babble.
All right, subscribe, hit the like button, share it all over the place that you can, all over the internet. Hit the bell notification. Come on in and join us live and join the live comments, or after the fact, leave a comment for us. I have been neglecting looking at the comments after the fact. I need to go and
Yeah.
answer some.
We
of the
do
comments.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, like, subscribe, engage,
Engage
get
number ones.
that algorithm going.
Cool. All right. Were we going to give a ticket away today, or are we going to not? Do you want to wait another week?
We can if you want.
Uh,
I thought we were. It's in the
Let's do it.
outline to do.
I want to do it,
but
yeah, for sure.
But it's not till next.
I know. Just
Okay.
asking. Go ahead, man. This is yours. The segment 2 is all you, baby.
Yeah. So
I'll help out.
this is the recurring segment of D&D weirdness. Things that when you things about the D&D game that if you think about it a little bit, it's going to end up feeling a little weird. But actually, I think you can step into it and make your game unique for your table or more fantastic. So we're talking about races.
Races.
D&D has a history of having many races that are, for all intents and purposes, humans with pointy ears.
That's true.
Because because the elf, they're all humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, 10 fingers, 10 toes, eyeballs. Everything is all in the same place, except some have pointy ears, some are a little shorter, but otherwise, especially in the early game, that's all you had. You had elf, dwarf, halfling at some point, which are still pretty much humanoid except for their giant feet
Small.
and the capacity to eat more than their weight in a single day. Some more recent versions have, of course it is. Of course it is. It's race centric. We are all racist up in here. We have the addition of more monstrous humanoids, especially the what's the demon half devil
Tiefling.
The tiefling and the Aasimar. They depart a little bit more.
Yep.
But then first edition had the half orcs.
Yep.
But first edition half orcs looked like humans for the most part. They were just if you had a certain charisma, you could pass for human.
Right.
Under that, people pretty much knew you were a half orc, especially if they got a good look at you. But they looked very similar to humans, not like the third edition half orc, which is big and burly with the tusks and everything. That's not the way the half orcs were in first and second. I don't know. Did second edition start hulking them out, or was it third?
I think third did, but someone couldn't correct me. I'm not really sure. So tell me this: is it especially when you get deep into third edition and the fourth edition making the Dragonborn and the Tiefling standard races, and then fifth edition's got all even
Right.
third edition got crazy. Do you think is that weird that you have so many options as civilized creatures to be a part of an adventuring band?
We as humans on planet Earth have a hard time getting along with how similar we are.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the only way we really differ is maybe some height variations and skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else.
Right, we're pretty much the same.
Yeah, we're all humans. We're all the same. We are all the same species. Elves and dwarves and halflings, especially, it doesn't seem like they'd be compatible.
Yeah. Over on Rumble, Joe, JB Garrison 72. Thanks again for keeping that alive, buddy. When I was running, he says I was running second edition. I would emphasize the alienness of demi-humans from the perspective of humans. Demi-human players would get reaction penalties from human NPCs in small villages. That's a good way to try to do that. It's
more
hard.
old school too.
Yeah, it really is.
Because in old school, there was a reaction table.
Yep.
On how all the races got along with each other, and nobody liked the half orcs.
Aliens think we're ugly. Yeah, dude.
And it's a long-standing thing that most if not all the races think the elves are the most beautiful.
Right.
So what that says is, even the dwarves, that says that we all have kind of the same beauty standards. We all look at each other. It's not like you can't say that and then say all elves look the same.
Yeah, I don't think dwarves would think that elves are beautiful. Seems to me, especially if you go with the dwarven females have beards, they'd be like, that's some pretty naked-faced women you got. That's ugly.
Correct.
So,
but we know that the thing with
and look
Gimli,
how skinny they are. Get out of here.
Right, but with Gimli was taken by Galadriel.
Correct.
Right. But that had something to do with her aura too.
Her ethereal magical aura.
Yeah, it had something to do with it too. But in D&D, you can go with the races being at odds and step into that and make your game world more dangerous and maybe a little more balkanized, and have the elves over here and the dwarves over here and the humans all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be great because it'll have different role-playing situations. Or you can do like the modern way, which is everybody gets along.
Yeah, do Planescape on crack. Which even Planescape, people, complain about Planescape, but oh my God, it's so everybody gets along. Not really. There was a big hammer in Planescape called Lady of Pain. So there was only so much you could do, and you could kill people and get away with it. So I think maybe that cosmopolitan setting is a little overdone, especially in like a 5e game.
Right, especially whenever even the smallest village is cosmopolitan.
Yeah, and late stage 3rd edition. I liked the early Ravenloft, where it's like, elf. There's an elf in town? What kind of fey beast is this? What's he up to? I've heard they do this to people. I heard they steal babies, right?
Right. So you can have that situation, and then you can step into the, like JB Garrison over on Rumble, where he says he makes them more alien, which is something I've talked to you about.
Yes.
Where you can even have elves, or you can have one of the races. It was elves in my head. Even have the whole birth cycle be different, right? They're supposed to be aloof.
Yep.
Right. And it's always chalked up to them living a long time.
I have a couple of notes in our last foray. It was basically a 4th attempt at Mudsword, which didn't get very far, but I still have it. And I do like the core of it, where I made some notes on how elves and dwarves were different. I went down some roads. Patrick's got some great ideas for a setting for, elves are vastly different from humans, look very different. I think that would be a fun way to play. I don't look at a setting where everything's cosmopolitan and think, man, that's just the dumbest way to play ever. No, that's just a quick way. I don't prefer it. Like everybody else, most people here probably don't prefer it, but it lets people play what they want, do the things that they want, and just jump into the game without thinking too hard about that. So you're a half Githzeri, half elf, gunslinger, paladin. Okay, let's do it. It's weird. It's not my jam, but if you like it, do it.
Right. And if it's one thing to have the players at the table be eclectic. So you have an elf and a dwarf and a human and a dragonborn and an elephant man, whatever. But when you travel around, there's going to be an impact on your experience. If you're all human and it's a predominantly human world, which most of your D&D worlds are before 5th edition, before I think 4th edition didn't go that way. But anyway, 3rd edition before is typically mostly human. So you're not going to get strange looks necessarily.
Right.
But if you have a 5-person party with 5 different races, you're going to get some looks.
Yeah.
There's going to be some trust issues.
Yeah, I think the biggest weirdness is a lot of times they just get along. Everybody just acts like they're old school buddies. And now you'll get the elf dwarf thing because that feels classic somehow.
Mhm.
Oh, hold on. Can we pause? 28 millimeter wants to know the origin of Shikaka. That would be Ace Ventura,
Mhm.
Pet Detective, when he meets that tribe and they worship that bat, which they call Shikaka. I
Mhm.
just fell in love with that. So Shikaka.
Yeah, they said it like they had that
and they would bow
in the
down.
background.
So he'd be like Shikaka, and they would all bow down to the ground.
Mhm.
I love me some Ace Ventura back in the day. Yeah, Martinson remembers something. He says back in the beginning of the Seven Spheres, the town sheriff hated his dwarf. Yes, for being a dwarf.
Right.
That was it. Correct.
Yeah. So in the real world, there are frictions between different kinds of people. So why not? I mean, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. But if you can embrace it a little bit, in my opinion, a lot of these things, less is more. You hit the highlights, and then you make your world a little different. But making them all get along is kind of boring.
It's kind of boring, and it's also kind of
what's the point of you having some unique race when no one really cares?
Yeah, true.
And then there's so many races, and it has over the life of the game, or the life of our hobby, kind of made humans pointless in a lot of ways. They had to, like first and second edition, humans had no racial abilities whatsoever, but the elves and the dwarves and all those other folks got lots of abilities. Sure, they might have been limited somewhat in what classes they can pick and how high level they get, but if you're only playing to 5th level,
yeah, elves and dwarves were better.
Why would you ever be a human?
Halflings were better than thieves. Yeah,
right.
So
everything's better as an elf because you're a fighter and a wizard, and depending on which version of the game you are playing, if you're only playing low level, then why play human?
Yep.
Because there's no point.
And honestly, here's another: if there's save or sucks all over the place, you're probably going to die anyway. Why not just play with the demi-humans, and on the off chance that he makes it to 8th level and gets stuck as a fighter, you're like, oh, maybe I can multi-class or the old school dual class, depending on what you're playing.
Right.
But it's kind of weird to me that I guess for me it was just so strange that you had we always had such motley crews, and I just couldn't. I was like, this just sometimes seems weird. You just have to just ignore it and move on. And unfortunately, when I was DMing, I would literally forget sometimes. Oh, wait a minute. Joe's character is an 8-foot Goliath, or Jenny's character is a half orc who's got a 22 strength. They're like, holy crap! People would react to that. A female who's 6'3" and just bulked up beyond imagining. Anything else you had on the weirdness of race?
Well, okay. So the old school thing was that humans were the most prolific race. All the other races were kind of scattered in small populations. But a lot of times the reasons for why are there still humans?
Yeah.
If the demi-humans are more powerful, then the humans are going to eventually just die out.
Yeah. Darth's making a claim.
So why does that not happen? They instead of giving in-game reasons, some kind of ability that humans have apart from being any class, any level, which doesn't matter when all the demi-humans are more powerful than you and they kill you before you make it there. Well, they say, humans have diversity. Humans have tenacity. There are some other nebulous quality that are not an in-game thing.
Right.
It's just part of the setting. So the setting tells you that the humans have made it.
Right. Just by.
So it's kind of a plot hole. It's kind of not reasonable.
Darth clarifies, even in 3rd edition, he said humans still get no real benefits. A skill point, a language, a feat, if the DM allows feats, and the variant humans in 3.5 the same. So I think he's talking about 5th edition and 3.5.
Yeah.
They weren't that much better, but an extra
when
feat.
They took away the level restrictions, there was almost no reason to play human.
Except At first level, that extra feat was kind of pimp.
Yeah. Later on, it's kind of once you got several feats down the road, it kind of is debatable.
Halcyon tries to defend the whole humanocentric thing. Demi-humans breed too slow, and humans breed like rabbits in the game. Not to mention, short-lived human spans will work harder for power than other. That's still a little light on the defense, right?
All right. So you really have to go this route.
Go read it. Go ahead, do it. L
Joe,
loves
did your
blasphemy.
GM suck and not restrict races? Oh, wait, your GM was Randy. Never mind.
You're right,
really,
L.
You really?
I was the suckiest GM ever. He's only played with me for 40 years, but you got me, dude. I was so sucky.
Yeah, we can't speak in generalities. Wow. Imagine that.
That's all right, dude.
Moron.
I know L loves me. It's okay. So anyway, he wants to play Planescape sometime. But don't worry. First time L and I play together, he's playing Planescape, and he's going to love it. So anyway.
The old school races were restricted.
Yes.
By level, by class.
We did that. We did that early on.
But if you only play low level, who cares?
I don't remember unlimited. I think I always had restrictions on. L brought that up, and now that I think about it, I think all the way through second edition, I restricted classes and levels.
Well, even second edition had level limits.
But they were kind of more generous, though.
They were more generous, but they had them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know what more restrictions that you want apart from in setting. So with the whole, they had a name for it where the different races got along. There's a word for it. It's not just they hate each other. Table.
Yeah, kind of reaction to other races.
Yeah, whatever
like
that
reaction
was.
Roll. Yeah,
something like that. Well, how well certain races got along with other races. So, right, that was there. But for elves, dwarves, and humans and halflings, it was generally they can get along in most situations.
Sure. Okay. I don't know. Okay. He said he was being okay. So he said I restricted. I did back in the day. I don't remember. It's been so long, dude. I can't remember. I mean, even episode 100 is hard for me to remember. I'm old, dude. It's hard to remember. I'll take your word for it, El. He said I did say I restricted it back in the day. Okay. I still do. I mean, well, I don't still do. I don't know what I do. I don't play any game consistently anymore. We play such short windows. I don't know. Once I get if I ever make my game, I'll find out what I feel about restrictions. But that was so you thought it was. I thought it was kind of weird that if you're going to let elves and dwarves be magic users, why are they necessarily restricted? I mean, if they're adventuring like everybody else, why can't they just why were they just mystically capped at 7th level? I guess just because they were too good. That was the only
level restrictions themselves are kind of weird from old editions. Why? Because, and this was actually something that I believe someone brought out, is because Mr. Gary didn't like the other races.
He didn't early on. I heard that. He was not a fan of that. He didn't want you to play dwarves and elves, and he didn't even like wizards that much from what I gather.
Right. So screw all those people. But people still want to rationalize all this stuff. Like, so elves, ennui caused them to not level high, even though they live 1,000 years. I don't know what kind of ennui you need to not get past 3rd level after 1,000 years. It's kind of dumb.
If you're a magic user and you find magic interesting, I would think the longer you live, the more secrets you would learn, making it even more fascinating. Magic's so varied. I never understood that. I didn't, just to be clear, I held it back because that was the rule. So I felt like I had to stick with it for some reason. But, and it did give humans something, but from it was weird. I'm the High Archmage. I'm 1,000 years old for this elven clan. Awesome. Can you cast? I bet you can cast time stop. Nope. I can cast slow because I'm 7th level.
Right.
How weird.
So you hear about powerful elven magic, right? Yep. But they're restricted to lower levels in the early game, and even there they were like, "Oh, this is powerful elven magic." Well, what they don't have powerful magic because they don't get high level. Yeah. It's kind of a weird. This is one of the weird things about the races in the game is they try to make them sound a particular way, but they aren't that way. Not by rules. You can just say in your setting, non-adventuring elves get powerful magic.
Yeah.
Because whatever. But adventuring elves, we're just
Dude,
slow. We don't care
and then
about
you have the
stuff,
exception of the
blah,
player
blah, blah.
character.
Yeah.
Player character always mentioned as being these exceptional, heroic
They're
dudes.
even exceptional.
And a
They're
player's like,
exceptional humans, dwarves, and elves.
I'm playing an elf. I'm
Yeah.
not bored. I want to be the best magic user fighter I could ever be. I want to be 90th level in both classes, which would be this dude right here. And so, yeah, let it go. I mean, do it.
So personally, I would say just have humans.
no, just have
You
humans.
just have humans, and the traits that you like about elves and whatnot, you just say Fey background, and maybe your human has a little Fey blood in them, or maybe not even blood. It might be favor. It might be that your family line is favored by Fey creatures and has been given some sort of blessing.
And you could then, I mean, there were talk of this before in third edition when what was that? The Book of Species. Remember that early on in third edition, something, the Book of Different Savage Species.
Mm-hmm.
And even in second edition, what if you then gave the Fey touched humans the elven powers slowly as they leveled,
Right.
so
right.
that the powers they got weren't front loaded to the race, so they were overly that much more are powerful than some other human warrior in terms of like if you care about that kind of balance, or human of the same class, the same human fighter, and then a Fey touch fighter, and then I don't know, a rock up your ass up your ass dwarf fighter. I don't know.
Right. So
no.
in the example of a Fey touch, you could have like the drow were given kind of a tree. I would have spread it out a little farther, but
yeah,
the drow, especially the female clerics.
Oh yeah,
The,
free dispel magic.
So something like that. So you could describe it like you're getting more in touch with the elves of old or the Fey creatures of old, and it could be cool within your setting that you're playing at your table, or anything else, even something like a tiefling or something like an Azamar, or something like a dwarf.
Mm-hmm. Abub001 on Rumble says elves are just super duper lazy. That's funny.
What's that? Say that again.
This guy named Abub001, welcome. He says elves are super duper lazy. I think is what he was saying.
They're so lazy they build extensive forest dwellings.
And if you go Forgotten Realms, which I know that's probably anathema to a lot of people because it's super powerful things, they had their own elven magics that were like 10th level spells and stuff. So even in second edition, I know Myth Dranor was a super magical city at some point.
Right.
So,
but a bunch of third level wizards.
No. Oh.
It's not, I mean, you may not be important for your table because you might just run dungeons.
Yeah, just do it, man. Guys,
I'm just suggesting some things that you can embrace or not to make your table a little more fantastic. So you can have all these races, and instead of them just being humans with pointy ears, make them more alien. Or you take them out and there's just humans, because that's really all they are now anyway.
Yeah. Anything else? I want to answer Halcyon H's question in a minute. Okay, so Halcyon H had a question, I guess, toward me. He was, Randy, how long have you played D&D? So 43 years. And do you still want to play the same D&D, or are you looking for something different? I am really, as the player at the table, I'm not looking for something new. I could play OD&D and I would have a ball. I could play a second level dwarf and be happy as a pig in slop. But as a DM, I do think I would have to. I am looking for something a little different, but I love the genre. D&D will always be. I'm a fan of the D&D game up through, not fourth. I like fifth a little bit. I do. I don't care for the company, but I like the different versions of the game. I've played all of them, and I've liked them. Don't prefer 5e or 4e. Third edition or earlier is more my jam. But I think I'm looking for something. I want a variant of fantasy, D&D style, that's something, I don't know. I think I might be looking for the Holy Grail. So, and that's probably not the best move.
Tilting at windmills.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, El. He says, how did level restricted elves get that powerful magic? Right. How could they?
There is a way you can explain it in game, kind of. You could say that elven magic is tied to their forest or wherever they live. And when you leave that center of where their magic, that's why Elrond, I think, didn't want to leave. What's the name of his place? Whatever it was. I remember someone saying that if he left there, he would lose. He's really tied to that location.
Wow.
So you could say that kind of like with elves, their magic is tied to their home, and if they go far away, they lose that.
And if you wanted to make it more sense, you could say once they get to 8th level, if that's their cap in whatever class, they get called back to their homeland. Not like someone says, "Hey, show up," but they're like they feel the call. They feel drawn to, or they want to just leave and become one with the universe. So, yeah. All right. Anything else on races? Are you ready to give something away?
Let's give something away.
Okay, cool. So you go ahead and tell them what it's about.
All right. So we're giving away a ticket to VG Big Geek Con, which is in September 22nd and 23rd. We're giving away a free ticket. What we would like you to do, if you would like a ticket, either to use for yourself or to give someone who you believe will go, or give it away yourself. Either way, let us know in the comments by putting the number 1.
Yes, the numeral, not the O-0-O-N-E, but if you're interested, Cal was last week. So if Cal is into it, I would pop that in there. If he's the only one, I guess he's getting it. But we'll give him like 2 minutes, Joe, again.
We'll give them 2 minutes.
All right. Legion wants 1.
All right. I didn't say go, but we'll go with okay.
Legion, that's cool.
That's
Legion's
fine.
He's down for the count. DM Blackwall, we are looking forward to seeing you too. That's September 22nd, 23rd, 2023 in Saginaw at the 4 what? For what? The 4 points. No.
Yeah, not four.
Not the 4 wins. The 4 points hotel. Okay, Halcyon wants 1. All right. See if anybody else. You keeping track of the time there?
Legion, are you planning on giving away on your show? If you're not using it for yourself, let us know.
Points.
Yes,
thank you, Martin.
We said that.
28mm said 2 tickets to Paradise. I think he's being cool.
Yeah,
he's not asking for one because it's easy for him to be cool because he's a good dude.
Okay, we got 1 minute to go.
All right, cool.
All right. If you do end up when you give it away, let us know who it is so we can keep track of that.
Yeah, get their name down and everything because we're not going to be fancy and send it in the mail because we're not fancy folks.
We're just going to give out badges at the door.
All right. All right. Looks like we've got
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, if you want one, Cal, have you changed your mind? Did we scare you off because you lost last week to Martinson at Dirty
Martinson?
Mm-hmm. He won that last week. Martinson's a lucky SOB, dude. He's won
a couple of things here.
He has.
All right, 10 seconds, everyone.
We got Legion. I'm rolling a D2 as it stands. I love it.
50-50.
Flip a coin, but this is Math Rock's game.
And that's time.
All right. 1 is going to be Legion. 2 is going to be Halcyon H. Prepare thyselves. All right. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Looks like it's Halcyon H. He got it.
Did you use a dice roller or a die?
I used a dice roller. You didn't hear the? Yes, I know. Because I can mess with the size of the number.
That's not old school.
Well, I'm probably
Halcyon H1?
not. Halcyon H1, yeah.
All right, write that
Sorry,
down.
Legion.
We'll know who it is.
Okay.
Congratulations, Halcyon H. You have a ticket to Big Geek Con.
He does.
We hope to see you there.
If you
end up giving it away because that's what you were planning the whole time, let us know who has it.
Yes. He has one ticket. Yeah, I know Mr. Halcyon, so he doesn't have to give me his name. I know his secrets.
You know his secrets?
I do.
Okay.
Well, some of them, anyway. All right. What about some random geekitude?
I don't know that we have any.
I do.
You
I do. I have some good news.
Oh,
Guess
yes,
whose
yes,
adventure
yes.
my adventure is done. David Gwill packed it up all pretty. So Tragedy at Tygon's Falls is done. It's going to be up on Big Geek Emporium Winjo. How soon will it be up, do you think?
Well, I need to have it first, and then it will be up on there within a day or two.
Legion, he's got something to say.
Hacks.
Rigged. You gotta like Planescape to win. That's the rule. We forgot to mention that.
It's a select group of people.
Select few in the multiverse. Yeah, so my adventure's done. I'm gonna try to get some printed through Lulu. David Gwill has been so kind as to tell me the secret, so I'm gonna hop on there hopefully tomorrow and tappa get some printed. Joe is gonna put it on Big Geek Emporium. Hopefully, you think this week you'll have it up or sooner? I'm gonna give it to you tonight.
We'll definitely have it up as a PDF download. It might take a little bit to get it set up for print on demand.
Gotcha.
But definitely we'll have the PDF download up ASAP.
I got to double check my.
Should look at a couple of. You have the PDF, right?
I do, and I'm also going to have hard copies that I want to give away on this show and PDFs on this show. Give away to people. Yeah.
So what we need to do is probably have a couple of sample pages we look at, via PDF because that'll be the easiest.
Yes. Okay. Would you like to say it right
next
now?
Week? Well, let's do it. Let's do it
next week. I'll have it ready to show people. It shows off Patrick Demo's awesome art from Pointy Hat Games.
Oh, look at Legion of Myth. He's upset because he didn't win.
He's leaving. I'm out. You guys, I hate you guys. Oh, I want to be on your show Friday if I can, Legion. I think I might have time. Whatever's happening there, your cool clown show. He's got he changed the title of Chill Stream to something else, so I want to get on there.
Well, it probably should have been changed.
Oh, why? Chill Stream's good.
Well, a lot of times he rants, so.
Well, that's okay. That's Max's skill. He has like +10 in that, just from his race. It's a
little mismatch.
That was racist. I love it.
So anyway, we're going to have that next week. We're going to take a look at a few pages, just some sample pages to let people know what it looks like. We will have it up on Big Geek Emporium, hopefully in the next couple of days.
And I'll tell you the price point next time. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to blurt it out. I want to make sure it's 100% set before anybody goes, you said it was this.
It'll be print on demand soon after it goes up as PDF.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'll try to have both at the same time.
I call it an OSR adjacent adventure. If you use your favorite OSR game, you probably can fake your way through the module with no issue. Stats are provided, but I don't think you'll have too much issue. So.
All right,
man. I think that's all I got to say. And Big Geek Con, September 22nd, 23rd. We're about to get, I can talk to Joe very soon. I'm going to make a list. I got it started, games that people are offering. I had several folks said they would run things. I know DM Blackwell's going to have some sweet Horde Wars. Him and his homie are going to run that kind of nonstop. I'm going to run something. I need to decide quick. And then I know we got a Pathfinder X-Crawl by Martinson. And I believe later Mercer Corps. And I believe also something from Flady, Riffs. Anyway, that's all I got. So.
All right. So if you want to get your tickets to Big Geek Con, they are available over at tabletop.events.
Yep. Yes, Nerdy Ogre. It's the random show. Oh, is that what it's called? The Rando Show. I think he's talking about Max's. Is that what it's called? The Rando Show? Okay.
That's cool.
All right. So probably should scoot out of here, dude.
Let's scoot. It's after we got 2 hours in, more than 2 hours.
If you'd like to support our show, please like, subscribe, and share us where you're listening or viewing the show. We're on all the socials, videos, podcast places for the most part. We're trying to do Rumble. Thanks for the Rumble, guys.
Yes,
we did the best.
Had a lot of activity on there tonight.
Couple, that was good. You can give us a little cash support at PayPal, Streamlabs, Ko-Fi, and Patreon, which we need to give something away for the patrons because we're not really doing that unless you've done something. And
maybe we'll give each of them a copy of the.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I get it printed off from PDF or print copy.
Yeah.
Website, www.biggestgeekespodcast.com. Email at thegeeks@biggestgeekespodcast.com. And of course, Big Geek Emporium at biggeekemporium.com. Games your way, baby. Soon to be a game from yours truly and Joseph, the inspirer of inspiration. So
I had the idea
he
kernel.
did. He gave me a kernel for the whole thing,
Kernel.
and I went like crazy town on it. So
Yeah, you changed it from the idea kernel I had to like a couple of scraps of something.
Some kind of piece of crap. And Joe's like, I guess since your name's on it, I don't give two craps. Don't put my name on that piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but are we good? We ready to boogie?
We are ready.
Okay. This is Randy.
And this is Joe.
And remember, can't be big like us. Be geeks like us.
Guess I wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready.
There it is.
My cracker.